Sean, our number if you want to be a part of the program. Listen, one way to save money, never sacrifice service, is with my cell phone provider. That's Pure Talk. The beauty of Pure Talk, well, one, it's a veteran-owned company. They give back to veterans' causes. But more importantly, they use the same cell towers, the exact same 5G network as the big carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. And for the exact same service, the average family saves over $1,000 a year. Small businesses, they're saving tens of thousands in some cases. There's a lot of money in your pocket. And right now, for $25 a month, you will get unlimited talk, unlimited text, plenty of data, no contract, no cancellation fee. What are you waiting for? That's money in your pocket for the exact same service. The switch is simple, it's fast, it's easy. You dial pound 250, you say the keyword save now, do it now, and you will save an additional.
Hey, XD. Good to see you, brother. I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Just took a break.
He's really someone you can trust, and he would never report something unless it is true. I just know how he rolls. And this is what he said.
Yeah, good to see you too, bud.
TMZ received this unverified ransom note. Also, a local station in Los Angeles received a similar note. As a matter of fact, the exact same note. Listen.
We got something in our email that looks like it's written like a ransom note for Savannah Guthrie's mother, specifically. And there was very certain amounts of money, very specific. And also, they say at the bottom, there are certain things they're saying about what she was wearing and damage to the house.
They're clearly saying to verify that
it's us.
We know what we're talking about.
So we contacted the sheriff's department, and we want to get them this letter. We had a little trouble getting through to the right person, but the person we spoke with is now forwarding this to somebody.
I think I am.
Bureau. So if my phone rings, I may have to stop. And
what's interesting is, there was just a news conference that just ended with the sheriff, and he was asked about. We're going to do this segment in a few minutes, but he was asked about a ransom note, and he just said, "We're following all leads."
Yeah, and it's again, we don't know if it's authentic, if it's authentic or not. But when you read it, they're acting as if, only we would know these things, and we're serious. And there's a dollar demand and an or else in there. Mm-hmm. So we will let you know as this thing kind of develops.
Now, if you think about it, if this
it's funny, I was just getting ready to do this. I had to run the dogs to the vet.
To Savannah Guthrie's mom.
So
why would this not have happened on location? It has all the earmarkings of some type of real ransom. It's chilling. It's frightening. It's what every American would fear. And obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with the family. I've met Savannah Guthrie. She's a lovely person. And I can't say that about everybody in the legacy media that I've met in my life. Trust me. Anyway, we welcome back to the program. She's a longtime friend. I think the smartest person in terms of analysis of crime in the country. And I'm proud to call her a friend. And it's Nancy Grace is with us. Last night, you were so good on TV and so knowledgeable. I mean, you really seem to know every detail of this. Tell me what your gut is telling you.
Skinned your knee?
Today.
Number one, thank you.
I know you had skinned your back or something. I didn't know if it was your knee or your back from before, but either way, it still sucks.
It's true. She's not just sweet and nice and genteel on air. She's that way in person. Unlike a lot of people on the TV, fake. She's not.
We know the same people.
Therefore, I'm telling you that up front because I want to believe what I'm about to say. And that can cloud have your judgment. I want.
Yeah, Rumble would be preferred. We're starting a new month. I haven't done. This is my first stream this month on Rumble, so. Or if you're able to do both, I prefer Rumble either way. You could pop over from time to time if somebody pops in, just to get them over there. But I need to set up a couple of things here. Well, so yeah, I got to run all the way out to Green Springs, and then I'm either going to do some door dashing or meet up with my partner about our banking issue. Not really an issue, just the update on the new business account, the new business bank account.
She's dead. You only lose so much blood, and you die, you bleed out. That was my first fear when I realized the DNA was blood. Then I thought, wait a minute, is the blood in an unusual spot, like streaks of it on the door, or up on the ceiling, which is throwback from a bludgeoning. Then I thought, oh no, it's high velocity. It's high velocity, which means a gunshot. It's none of those things. From the blood that we've seen in the photos, which is a blood trail of sorts, not very long, it's leading from her door to the driveway. And it appears to be, and this is very significant, if this is all the blood there is, it appears to be low velocity drops. But to me, looks like, for instance, a nosebleed. I see other blood around it, which looks like it could have been aspirated. In other words, how can I say this in common terms? Breathed out. So that's the pattern that I see. In a lot of worlds, that may not be good. In this scenario, that is good. There's not a copious amount of blood. So that means to me, she could still be alive. We haven't found her body. That's the headline. Cadaver dogs haven't found anything. That's a bombshell right there. We have no indication she's dead. Statistically, yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's opened up under the LLC.
And I'm reading the tea leaves because I want to read it this way. However, she's an elderly lady. She's 84, and she is on a lot of meds.
Oh, I didn't switch. Oh shit! I need to switch it over. I just realized. Hang on, I got to switch the Rumble over to station instead of my user account. I'm pretty sure I forgot to do that. Hang on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I forgot to. My content. Yep, I did. God damn it. Oh, no, that's right. Oh, that's right. Cool.
Now, who would do that? That tells me a lot about the religious group, that they would want the money in Bitcoin. Now, a lot has been made about a person of interest at this juncture. The sheriff has come out and said there are no suspects. There is no POI. I want to believe it. But they always say that when they've got a POI, right? Why? Because once you're named as a suspect, constitutional protection shrouds you. Until you're named as a suspect, you don't have those constitutional protections. But at this juncture, there is no suspect and there is no POI. Another thing I'm wondering about.
Rumble's not active? Let me double check, because I'm pretty sure I
Nancy
did it.
Was wearing at the time of her abduction. Was it her PJs? Was it what she wore to that church event that Saturday night? I'm curious to find out. If she's still wearing the clothing she wore to the event.
Yeah, it says I've been live for 9 minutes, but let me make sure I'm on the right channel. I thought I was. Yeah, I'm on the right channel. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Duh. You're right. Yeah, I'm on the wrong channel. Hang on. I'm on the username instead of the channel settings. There it is. That's what I need to switch. I always tell when it's been a couple days since I've done it. Where the fuck's the... Here it is. So, yeah, I'm on the user profile. Okay. You should see it go live in just a minute.
And it resulted, it changed your life on a dime. And this happens to victims of crime all the time.
All right. Keep an eye out. It'll pop up in a second.
Exactly where this passion of yours has come from.
Well, for you, I will do that. I typically do not like it when I'll be.
You don't have to. I care too much about you as a friend.
Yes, I'm in the car, actually, all the way back from giving a Founders Day speech at one of my alma maters, Mercer University in Macon. I graduated from there and in my.
All right, you should see it popping up any second now.
I was in the middle of my speech, and I had to give this story I'm about to tell, and I've already broken down in tears. So, I'm already a big fat mess.
Nancy, I care too much about you as a person. I'll tell it for you. I mean, you were engaged.
Yes. I was at
to the love of your life.
a little college, and
I did. I played him.
Baseball player.
Sorry if I didn't respond.
On baseball scholarship, he transferred to complete his geology degree, and that's when I transferred to Mercer. Shortly before our wedding, he was murdered. He was shot 5 times in the face, the neck, and the back. And I knew nothing about the justice system. I had never been in a courtroom. I never had any quote brush with the law nor my family. The first time I was ever in a courtroom was when I was a witness in the prosecution. And I'll never forget it, Sean, as long as I live. I now know why I was a witness. I didn't see what happened. I wasn't there when he was murdered. But I believe I was brought on to human rights case, since victims have no rights in a courtroom, to make him come alive for that jury. And I remember coming down off the witness stand. It was high up by the judge, on one of those elevated benches, and you'd take 2 steps and then a little square, and then you'd turn the other way and come down the rest of the steps. And I walked my counsel table.
Yeah, Bill loves her too. I like her.
Down, and I saw Keith's bloody shirt. And I had not seen that. I'd never seen anything like that. I grew up in a very rural, sheltered childhood, and I'll never forget it. And I kept walking, and I passed the defendant's table, Sean, and I looked at the defendant, and he looked me in the face, and he looked down at his lap. He couldn't look at me in the face. And I looked on either side at all the lawyers sitting around him. And they looked at me, and then they looked down, too, at their table. They wouldn't look at me. And I just kept going, and I remember it was so quiet.
If you click on my feed, you should see it now.
As I walked out of that place. And
yeah, I know she's pretty young.
My first
I didn't know exactly how old, but
to the criminal justice system. Everything was a blur. I hardly remember a lot of it. I've actually lost chunks of memory before and after Keith's murder. I was in school to be an English Shakespeare Lit professor. I dropped out of school, and thankfully, Mercer University let me come back in later. No questions asked, but wife and mother and professor was not meant to be. I went back to law school to become a felony prosecutor of violent crimes to help other victims. But that story didn't end there. That crime affected the rest of my life. It took me so long to get it together to ever attempt to remarry that I didn't get pregnant until I was 47, Sean. And I and my daughter, my little Lucy, almost died in childbirth. I felt so old by the time I finally got pregnant. So it affected my life for the rest of my life. So I come to this spot in this car on this phone call, and it's very personal to me.
It's one of the reasons I love you so much. And, it's out of this horrible tragedy as a young woman. And by the way, it was 19 years till you even considered getting married, because it was so traumatizing and devastating. And here's, there is the other side of this. You have done so much good in your life because of what you lived through, and helped so many others as a result of all of this. I mean, it just is, I sit here in awe of the person that you are, and it's so sad what shaped you into the person that you are, and the tragedy that brought this out. And yet you have this infectious passion. You're the premier expert now in the country on cases like this. Stay right there. I don't want to push you anymore on this. I didn't even want to ask it if I knew. I know how emotional it is, and I know you as a person. We'll have more with Nancy Grace on the other side. 800-941-SEAN is that number. We'll continue. Straight ahead. The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions. Looking for a great real estate agent? Someone who can help you sell your home fast and for top dollar? Go to ready.com, REDY.com. Because on Ready, agents will pay you just for the opportunity to sell your home. Yeah, on Ready, agents will pay you for your listing. Thousands of dollars up front just for a chance to sell your home. And it's easy. Just go to ready.com, enter your address, and when you want to sell. In just 48 hours, the best local agent.
I didn't know that about her either.
Ready to be your agent with cash offers up front.
I had no idea.
Your business. Hey, your listing is valuable. Don't give it away. Make those agents earn it. Get paid to pick your real estate agent. Go to ready.com or call 888-880-REDY.
Oh, you're welcome, brother.
8880-READY.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. He was in great health. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. And super hard, obviously, for the whole family. But my dad had life insurance. So even after he passed away, he was still able to provide for my mom. And of course, by extension, my brother and I. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife, and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com. Because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. 10 minutes. You're covered. Your family is covered. You get $2 million in coverage for $2 a day. That's a 10-year term life policy for a 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. We don't like to talk about death in our culture, but everyone's going to die. It's protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Slater. Rates may vary, payable monthly. Ethos.com/Slater.
Imagine you're on vacation with your sweetheart. You gaze into her eyes and you see a beautiful sunset. You're in love. What if you could feel that way every day, or at least be reminded of that in love sunset vacation? Perfectly captures the sunset hues, going from deep purple to vibrant pink to soft orange. It's nothing like you've ever seen before. In my opinion, this is one of the most special roses we've ever produced. are those instances when only lethal force will do. Period. End of sentence. That's it. Now, you don't have to be a crime statistic if you prepare and you train for personal safety and protection for you and your loved ones. If you have not made a personal safety plan for 2026, please do it today. And please look to Sig Sauer. I trust this brand. They're the best.
Yeah.
They have a 270-year history.
They're having some issues with one model of them, though.
Quality, reliability. By the way, all assembled in beautiful New Hampshire. Live free or die. Over 4,000 people work there, and most of these people, by the way, are former military. Anyway, look, the Sig Sauer P365, their most popular, best-selling concealed carry pistol, the best one on the market today. I carry it every day. Go to sigsauer.com/Hannity. Now you'll get a discount. A list of
Thanks, brother. I got a cut last week, but I've been not streaming for a few days.
Very easy to
last
conceal
Thursday.
carry, easy to shoot. And it's an amazing
So it's a week of growth.
Take control of your personal and family safety in 26. Go to sigsauer.com/Hannity, get your discount, and get a list of dealers where you live. All right, when we come back, we'll have more with Nancy Grace on the other side. Then we'll get to your phone calls, 800-941-SEAN, our number if you want to be a part of the program. This really should put the attention in the spotlight on how many victims of crime in this country never get any attention.
I do need to put the.
And this is why it is imperative.
Oh, it's fine. The green thing's fine for now.
There's a gift from God that matters. And pay attention to all of them. And get rid of all these criminals that are responsible for this. Quick break, right back. More on the other side as we continue.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. Do you feel stupid?
A little shaggy, huh?
Sure. No, it's not your fault. You were most likely told you could rent it, and it was a great financial investment. And the deal was available today only. If this happened to you, contact your resort or Wesley Financial Group for help today.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-294-3311. 800-294-3311.
You can argue opinions all day long, but you can't argue results. Greetings, Natural Family Dr. Dennis Black, your founder of Rough Greens. And for years, the big pet food companies have told you that their kibble has everything your dog needs. But here's the truth. That bag of food is cooked at such high temperatures, it's dead food. And when you feed dead food day in and day out, the fallout is itchy skin, achy joints, no energy, and endless trips to the vet. But when you add Rough Greens, you get the live vitamins, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, and antioxidants that your dog needs. It's not marketing hype. That's real results. Seeing your dogs are running around like puppies, skin problems, finally finding relief. And even the pickiest eaters are licking their bowl.
Yeah, I had a real sore back over the weekend, but we did a bunch of put together a bunch of IKEA furniture that we've been having sitting out forever. Got that all put together over the weekend. We just got a couple more things to do. Let me fire up Robert Gouveia real quick here.
Don't they know they're sitting on a gold mine? No, they don't know that if you have a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you may be able to sell all or part of it to Coventry for cash, even a term policy.
Plans for surrender your policy before finding out what it's worth. Call Coventry Direct 800-63400 or visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if it's worth it.
What the hell is this? Hello?
Hello, yeah, hi. This is Norman.
Who's calling?
This is Mark Owen. How are you doing today? Are you okay?
I was in the middle of something. What can I do for you?
Nothing, sir. I'm calling you from account service for Visa and Master. And the reason we're trying to reach you because we have received a credit card application has been applied under your name. So we are here just to confirm, have you recently applied for a new credit card from the state of Texas? Alright, sir. And by chance, did you provide your information like your name to anybody open a new credit card in behalf in Texas?
I don't think that's any of your business.
Sorry?
I don't think that's your business.
All right, sir. You don't apply any new credit card recently, correct?
I will say once again, I don't think that's any of your business.
I'm calling you from account services.
No, you're not. You're calling from India. You can't even disguise your accent.
No, man, sir. I'm calling you from account services, not India.
Goodbye. All right. He can't even disguise his accent. I'm calling you from account services.
Something bigger than just the FBI.
Normally,
records that they took.
oh yeah, no. A lot of times I'll just stay on the phone with him for a long time just to fuck with him, but I want to hear the show, so I was like, dude, that's none of your business. I'm calling from account services. I'm like, no, you're not. You're calling from India.
Same source saying that you guys can't relax. Even though the FBI has been here, they confiscated 700 boxes. Arrests.
Yes.
We have to wait and see.
We are going to wait and see. We're excited about that because we know that Doug was ready to something they were getting away and get away with the whole thing. And so we'll come back to this because there's more there. But what they are announcing, the whole thing today, was that they're initiating a lawsuit. And so here's a little bit of that. He says, today, Fulton County is suing. Listen how free they are.
No, he was asking me if someone just applied for credit in my name from Texas, which all they have to do is say something like that, because they already know your address when they're calling you. They know you don't live in Texas. If I would have fucked with him, I would have been like, yeah, I did. And he'd be like, but you don't live in Texas. I'm like, yeah, but I'm opening a business in Texas. I would have fucked with him for a while. Because the longer he's on the phone with me, he's not fucking with somebody else. And I'm not going to give him any information or any money. So.
By the FBI last week through a raid at our Fulton County Elections Level. The motion also seeks the unsealing of the affidavit that was found in support of the search warrant that the FBI used to raid our warehouse. However, because the case is still under seal at this time, then I cannot share the contents of the motion itself. And last week,
so they're freaked out. They're suing. Of course, we'll get our hands on the documents as soon as they're available, but they're not out yet. But all week, we've been covering the fallout from the Democrats who have been, like Mark Warner, out there screaming about Tulsi Gabbard. Very nervous that these files have been seized now and are being reviewed for evidence of crimes. And Mark Warner was here, and DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, the office of the DNI, went out last night just on a burner. Post after post coming back and capturing the narrative, stealing it away from the Democrats who are trying to blame Tulsi for being a Russian agent or something. And we appreciate this. A government account going after the Democrats rather than going after Miranda Devine. Now, hey, Capitol Hill press corps, said DNI, Mark Warner is lying to you because he's a liar. And we covered this yesterday at length. But Mark Warner and his top chief of staff person, his top security official at the Intelligence Committee, was literally sleeping with the journalist and leaking information about the Russian collusion hoax, which was fake, to her and implicating Carter Page during Trump's first term. Same guy. So they say Mark Warner is a liar. Do you plan to call out any of his false statements? Here's the truth. Tulsi and the DNI has processed and addressed every bit of correspondence from your office. All 6 of your whiny letters have been dealt with. Refusing to fact check him and ignoring our responses is a slanderous accusation and it's negligent reporting. And she's responding to this little clip from Mark.
I'm not sure we've had any of the letters redaction.
what do you do? There's one or two, maybe one or two. So, but yeah, you're a liar because we read the letter yesterday, liar. So, of course, Tulsi is continuing, and she says, I also just sent a new letter to Congress. The Intelligence Inspector General confirms that this whistleblower claim against her that we saw being spread around yesterday is false. Here's the truth. The Biden-era intelligence community, IG Inspector General, determined that the allegations against Gabbard, quote, did not appear credible. You're kidding. The Biden era also, IG, did not inform Gabbard of any requirement to transmit this to Congress, so there is no delay. Also, the prior IG closed the case and declined further investigation, saying this is not even an urgent concern requiring prompt congressional notification. And so after a briefing on providing security guidance, Gabbard took immediate action, updated you guys, and the truth is, it's not an urgent concern, and there is no there there. This is the letter that went back over to Mark and to Tom Cotton, and it's from the Inspector General. It's not from Tulsi. You can see over here, Chris R. Fox. And this is in response to they're trying to take our eyes off the ball. Okay, it's not that Tulsi is a Russian agent that they're concerned about, really. They just need to say that because they don't want us looking in Fulton County. So Tulsi sent this big letter, actually the IG did, but she's publishing it for everybody to see. Hopefully the media will take this and confirm for everybody that this is legitimate. But just to hit the highlights on this, from the IG, it says, all right, listen, Cotton, Warner, Mark, Crawford, the rest of you guys. Today I received guidance from Tulsi about an urgent concern. Now, the guidance requires the complaint to be hand-delivered and made available to the Gang of Eight, the senators who are idiots. Once I got the guidance, I directed my team to give you access to this information. We also got this back in 2025. The IG hotline got this, and we started to review it. Then, in June 25, after receiving new evidence, Acting IG Johnson issued a supplemental determination finding that the first allegation did not appear credible, while remaining unable to assess the credibility of the second application. But then, supplemental determination determined that there is no there. More details about what happened. He says on December 4th, I then met with Mr. Deaver and Miss Gabbard, talking about all of these issues. And given the unprecedented supplemental determination and the attention this case has received, I thought the committees should know my view on the matter, and it continued on. Now, for any complaint, you should consider how the complainant knew or could have known any of these things, and whether this is really an urgent concern. But I explained why we are limiting the distribution of this. It's not a
we're getting a bit warmer next week too. At least by Tuesday.
It might be a political attack. And so if we're going to say, well, if this is true, all that is doing is allowing speculation. Okay, you can play the hypothetical game all day long. If it's true, what if? So we don't just spread around slanderous accusations. So when I applied the facially neutral standards for determining the credibility and the sufficiency of these claims, I find the Inspector General that it does not meet an urgent concern. And so they're just trying to distract from their crimes, which are many. And so Tulsi continued on and said, let's debunk this exclusive, all right? The facts tell the truth. They said that an intelligence official has alleged wrongdoing. Not true at all. In fact, the complaint against Tulsi failed the entire credibility review. They say that she hindered dissemination. No, they didn't. It was just so lacking in credibility that they wouldn't disseminate it because it would be irresponsible. So the truth is, Gabbard is amazing. She acted immediately. She gave them everything they needed. She supported lawful whistleblower channels. There's no cloak and dagger mystery. And the whistleblower's lawyer, Andrew Bakaj, is no neutral actor. He's a partisan advocate with a documented history of advancing complaints against Trump-era officials. And they've done this many times. Remember the CIA guy and the others? Says his counsel on multiple politically charged complaints. He sues against Trump. He's a former Democrat staffer. He frames cases against the fight against the administration. And so the media is filled with liars, and Tulsi Gabbard was there upholding the integrity of America. But more is coming out. Now, Rick Crawford, of course, is on the Intelligence Committee, and there's a lot of demands that they step in here and stop this whole investigation from continuing. He says, our House Intel Committee got a letter from ICIG Fox, the one we just read.
alleged whistleblower complaint, and the ranking member and I, along with the appropriate staff, have reviewed it. Now, after doing so, I concur with the conclusion of the Biden Inspector General, Tamara Johnson, that she reached in concluding that this is a non-credible complaint. Chris Fox reconducted the complaint. There was a media firestorm fed by speculation. They're all attempting to smear Tulsi and Trump. This is the same deep state playbook used by the fake whistleblower that sparked the first Trump impeachment that Mark Warner was a part of. He had his top intelligence security person banging the journo and then leaking information to her that she would then publish to set the narrative. They've done this before. He says the deep state works hard, but Gabbard and her team work even harder. You know you're right over the target when they're deploying every tool in their arsenal against you, and they are absolutely free. And here's more on this. Now, our friends over at Badlands Media are amazing. They've done some great reporting over here. It says if the governor doesn't want to investigate, this is Governor Kemp in Georgia, they said we're not going to investigate. That's a quote. So is Brian Kemp a Republican governor involved in the cover-up? Article by Brian Lupo posted today takes us through some of the transcripts from a senator called Perdue, who is not a senator right now because they probably stole the election from him, but he was a senator preceding. And when he was brought in during the grand jury, Fannie Willis hired.
Well, I don't think she's really done shit either, though. I'm tired of her.
Theme and pattern here. They're sleeping with each other, banging everybody in their offices. And then Wade sits down with Perdue during the grand jury proceedings and asks him some questions. And a senator says, I've got concerns about this, and Fannie didn't investigate it at all because Brian Kemp, the governor, along with Brad Raffensperger, shut the whole thing down. So Badlands, Brian Lupo, shout out. He said, let's rewind the clock a little bit. On October 24th, Trump surrendered himself to the authorities in Fulton County. We got 19 people charged, RICO. We spent a long time covering this. Meanwhile, Fannie is indicting Nathan Wade constantly. They're sending like a gazillion text messages to each other. And it was ultimately dismissed. But even after the dismissal, the case is providing us with more context about what actually happened. Last month, McAfee, the judge, lifted a protective order on the special grand jury. We got some transcripts now. One particular transcript contains a concerning claim made by a former senator. Might carry some weight if it comes from a senator, right? David Perdue. On September 6, 2022, Senator Perdue sat for a transcribed interview in front of the grand jury. He was examined by Nathan Wade. Nathan's hot dog was there. And here's how it went down. Here's the transcript. There's Senator David Perdue. They're inquisitioning him. There's Fannie's lover, Wade. Now, after the pleasantries, Wade asked Perdue, do you agree that investigations by Raffensperger, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, and numerous investigations, Senator, do you agree? We've all looked into this, okay? Nothing happened, right? At State Farm Arena on election night? Perdue said, yeah, well, there was an investigation. On investigation. Question to Perdue from somebody, probably Nathan. Wait, he says, okay, sure. Okay, so you're talking about the pre-January 6, 21, right? So Wade says, so just to get the timeline straight here, Senator, I'm talking about sitting here today. So you're talking about State Farm Arena and the things that.
No, I think Dan realized that the swamp was thicker than he thought, and that he really couldn't get anything done. Have you watched any of his new shows? He really hasn't gotten into it too much, but I think slowly it's going to trickle out. He thinks he did a lot, but
he says, hey, well, let me give you one example.
People are disappointed.
Do you agree that those investigations took place?
He's back where he belongs.
That the GBI investigated? He says, yeah, I agree that an investigation happened. That did occur. Yeah, they were poking around, moving files around, just, take one file over here, put it over here. Oh, I looked at it, yeah, blah, blah, blah. As long as Joe Biden wins, we're happy to investigate anything you want. As long as the end result is we win. Wade fired back. He said, it's just a simple question. I just want you to flush out for the grand jury what you mean, because it's a simple question. Did the GBI investigate those claims? Your claims? He says, no, not to my knowledge, not to my satisfaction at all. When Wade asked if Perdue had reason to believe
that's going to be automatic.
Conducted a satisfactory investigation. Perdue's response, he says, was shocking. He said, well, I got to phone call in November 21 from Vic Reynolds. This is the senator speaking. He's the then director of GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Reynolds calls Purdue. Reynolds says,
I mean, these types of investigations take a very long time, though. So it's people's. I mean, I said I was disappointed in it, but people's general
the governor
disappointment.
wants me to tell you
Things
why
like this.
we're not going to investigate.
I mean, it's understandable, but I know why they can't say
the governor
things.
Here and putting his thumb on an investigation. Purdue also said that in May 21, Reynolds, who's working for Brian Kemp, the so-called Republican, was presented with evidence of ballot harvesting. He says, I went to the governor and I told him these things. He said there was video evidence, there was cell phone evidence, there was testimony and bank records that corroborated this whole scam. He said that Reynolds looked at that and did tell him back in May that it was compelling enough to be investigated. So the investigation goes on. Trump doesn't get indicted until much later. The grand jury's poking around. Purdue goes on to say, well, the reason that the governor's second in command, or whoever that was, gave him for not investigating the compelling evidence was because Reynolds was, quote, a team player. That's why we're not investigating. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we're not going to investigate, okay? A rigged election? Purdue would conclude his answer by stating that they're on for the record that the then GBI director, wow, that's Vic Reynolds, okay, so the director of the investigative body, calls. We're not investigating. He says, I'm a senator. I've got evidence. I've got videos. I've got documents. Take a look into it. You're like the lead investigator. So the governor said no. Oh, what happened after that? Oh, yeah. So GBI director then gets a promotion. He goes to the Superior Court, judge of Cobb County. Wow. Now he's ensconced as a judge forever. An appointment that Brian Kemp made in August 2022, just 1 month before the testimony was given. Question for Purdue. Okay, do you have a reason to believe that GBI would not have conducted a satisfactory investigation? He says, yeah, I'll give you a phone call that happened. He says, okay, sure, what's the phone call? He said, that's very clear. In November 22, the head of GBI called Vic Reynolds, called me. It's a matter of record. I have the document here if you want to see it. He called me and said, we're not going to investigate. The governor wants me to tell you why we're not going to investigate. I said, okay, let me know. Because he was in a meeting in May when he saw evidence of ballot harvesting. And this is video evidence and cell phone evidence, along with testimony and bank records that are all corroborated on and all that. He looked at that and said it was compelling to be investigated. That was in May. He called me and said, wow, this is pretty crazy. I got video, I got cell phone footage. I can see all of it. It's not good. Bank accounts, hired, $100 grand to go get these ballots. Everybody's spreading money around. Can you look into it? He sends it to me. Goes, yeah, damn, it's pretty. Yeah, I'll look into it.
You go, brother.
Months go by. November comes down. He calls me and he says,
use some myself.
Oh, bad news. I saw all that evidence. It looks pretty bad. However, we're not going to investigate because I'm a team player. And if the governor doesn't want me to investigate, then we're not going to investigate. And for the record, this is a senator testifying, talking to the head of the entire investigative body in Georgia. For the record, he's been promoted to Superior Court Judge of Cobb County. It's such a corrupt scam. We're living in such a fake system. Go be a judge. Nobody can remove you. You're permanently ensconced in there. What, are they going to impeach you or what? No, you're forever. It's a forever position. Good luck. Thank you for bringing up and not investigating the fraud from Brian Kemp, the governor. Now, according to Purdue, Vic Reynolds saw evidence of ballot harvesting that was compelling enough to open up an investigation. And this is not the first person who got appointed to a new judgeship, nice, shiny judgeship. Is he a judge? Is he a lawyer? He's an investigator for the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Does he even have a law license? What the hell's going on? Brings him over. You're now a judge. Okay. Toward the end of the testimony, another attorney was there, Donald Wakeford. He asked Purdue to follow up a follow-up question. He says, Mr. Wakeford, I have a follow-up question, if that's okay. I wanted to follow up on one thing you mentioned earlier in your testimony. You mentioned a telephone call between yourself and Vic Reynolds, who's the head of the GBI.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
GBI. You said that although
only one I really liked was
that he felt he was compelling enough to open an investigation, that he was told not to do that because the governor, Brian Kemp, told him not to.
Jelly bean.
Purdue said, yeah, that's one of the things he said to me. Yep, under oath, in front of a grand jury. Yeah, he said he wants to be a team player and not do his job. Purdue also clarified that there had been 2 whistleblowers, in fact 2, who had come forward and testified about ballot harvesting in Georgia. One claimed to have corroborative evidence, including bank statements of payments for what he did. We got video, we got receipts, it's all documented, but they could not move forward. Why? Purdue said, well, get them whistleblower protections. Go protect them. Have them testify and do the investigation. But the evidence that was presented to Reynolds and also viewed by Purdue came out from another presentation that was made by True the Vote. According to a follow-up letter by Reynolds, the data identified 279 cell phones which had made multiple trips to within 100 feet of a voter drop box. 279 little smurfs out there roaming around, gobbling up the ballots and making multiple trips, harvesting the votes. They tracked that down through geolocation. Now, Reynolds said, what has not been provided is any other kind of evidence that ties these cell phones to harvesting. For example, there are no statements of witnesses and no names of any potential defendants. So we're so screwed, we can't figure it out. Saliently, it has been stated that there is a source that can validate this. Despite repeated requests, the source has not been provided to either the GBI or the FBI. Now, and of course, the FBI was involved in the cover-up as well. Now, and probably January 6th. In fact, we know they were involved in January 6th. Now, as it exists, the data, while curious, does not rise to the level of probable cause. And so we can't investigate anything. But that's all refuted. Okay, Catherine Engelbrecht, who runs over at True the Vote, gave a statement to Badlands Media. And by the way, they're everywhere. Badlands is on Rumble. I think they're on YouTube too. They do great work, great shows, awesome dudes over there. Make sure you're giving them a follow. Yep. Watch anything. Says Vic Reynolds, and she says in response, his description of what happened with the investigation is untrue. We met once with Vic Reynolds and his team in the governor's office in early 21, where we walked them through everything. After that meeting, we made repeated attempts to re-engage with them and never.
Robert Govea, Watching the Watchers.
On the one hand, you could say, well, they just think she's crazy or something, right? Totally lacking in any credibility. Totally.
No, he didn't say ice out.
So we're not going to meet you again. Or, on the opposite hand, they go, holy crap, they track the cell phones? They know exactly what we did. We're totally screwed. So we're never going to talk to them again. Now, the FBI offered to assist by hosting a secure database so the GBI and other law enforcement agencies could preserve the chain of custody and act. They were clear, though, that they were not conducting an investigation and they did not collect any evidence. That's why Purdue is saying, no, I'm not happy with it. Now, given what followed, it's unclear if there ever was any genuine investigation at all. Engelbrecht says, the next time that this newly appointed judge, Reynolds, surfaced was when a letter that he wrote and addressed to us appeared in the news, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now, he sent the letter to them before we got it. So he's leaking to the media. We did get the media, and then we responded right to the governor. The suggestion that this stalled because we failed to provide info is simply inaccurate. We were shut out early as a public pressure mounted to just, the election's fine, stop talking about it. The focus shifted to blaming us. Now, we're the conspiracy theorists. Now, we're the bad people who are trying to undermine America's most safe and secure election in the history of the planet. Obviously, a senator didn't buy it. Now, he's not the first Georgia official to later get appointed to a judgeship. The victories came down later. Ossoff and Warnock, they gave Democrats control of the Senate. Joe Biden had all branches of government because they stole it. Purdue was the incumbent in 2020, didn't get the 50-vote threshold against Ossoff. He won 90,000 votes more, but there was a runoff, and then Ossoff won by 55,000 votes. Incredible, right? All the Republicans in Georgia then are like, nope, shut up. Don't investigate any of this. It's the best election you've ever seen. Now, he's not the first person who got appointed up to a higher office just to get him out of. Great job well done. Go be a judge. Nobody's going to subpoena a judge. Nobody's going to haul you in to testify. You're a judge. You're basically protected, walled off. Following the election, Brad Raffensperger claimed that an audit of 5 counties was performed by ProVNV, a testing lab. However, this lame company is not even a certified auditing firm, and their involvement in any post-election audit would be a direct conflict of interest since they were responsible for certifying the equipment prior to the election. So of course they're going to come in and audit themselves and say everything that we set up for you was perfect. It's rigged. Raffensperger claimed that Cobb, Douglas, Floyd, Morgan, Paulding, Spalding, and other counties were the subject of their audits. They keep saying they're audits. Oh, no, we've audited everything. Great. So the people who ran the election audited themselves, and you want to lecture us about how we're the ones who are off on this? Below are open records requests from 3 of those counties. They've got a couple emails. Janine Evelyn from Cobb County sent this over to Kevin. Maybe that's Kevin Monclove, maybe, at Gmail. Janine says, the Center for Election Systems did audit at one point. I don't know if they contracted with a vendor to assist with that or not. It's like, Janine, you're the Cobb County Elections and Registrations Director, Janine. You don't know? Did they do the audit themselves? What kind of audit is that? Janine, did ProVNV ever do a forensic audit of your machines after the 2020 election? Thank you. And Kevin, oh no. Well, is there anybody there who would know? Like, the director? Oh, that's you. Another email from Desiree. Hey, in response to this message, says, oh, thank you for your request. Paulding County has no emails or responsive documents pertaining to your request. We do not have an audit of the machines following November. We have no communications with Brad, the secretary, Dominion, or ProVNV, so there was no audit at all. And another one from Douglas. Yeah, we sent in a records request. Did you audit anything? No. The Douglas County Board of Elections found no records responsive to your open records request about comms with Brad or the Board of Elections or voter registration. No communication was identified at all about an audit of Dominion machines afterwards. There were also no records of any audits by ProVNV anywhere. So the memo from Jack Cobb, the president of the ProVNV, to Michael Barnes, which works for Raffensperger, so from the people who ran the election and then allegedly audited themselves, they sent a memo over to Brad's office acknowledging that there was a request for this. It was dated 7/16/2021, more than 8 months after the audit had already been allegedly performed. So they're lying about the audits too. This message came out from Jack Cobb to Georgia Secretary of State office. It says, Dear Mr. Barnes, the Secretary of State's office has requested that we perform a field audit of the Dominion systems. The purpose of the audit is to verify the voting system and the requested locations are all fine. So we were provided the following locations and asked to select random samples, all those locations. And so we're going to need the following, this information. This was created on 7/16. Look at the depth of this recording, man. Shout out to Badlands, man. Awesome. They looked into the metadata. The person who created that was Jack Cobb, and they created it on 7/16 after they said the audits had already been completed. Now, according to Georgia resident Bob Coover, who facilitated the open records request, Raffensperger included the results of this audit in a 10-page letter, following a December 22, 2020 promise to investigate this. So how did he have the results of an audit in December 2020 when the request for the audit came out in July 2021? How'd that happen? So maybe he's just a liar. According to Georgia resident, he probably is. Secretary of State told us on November 17th that we ordered a testing and we've done it.
Jacob.
Now, he claims that he took evidence of 28 instances of fraud.
I'm doing some distracted driving. I'm done now, though.
And his lawyers. Then they referred it to another inspector general. Scott McAfee? Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Is that the same Fanny judge? Are you kidding me? Scott McAfee, Georgia judge. Is this the same guy? It is the same guy. Are you kidding me? Okay, so the Inspector General, Scott F. McAfee, said he can only go after one allegation, the claims that an audit never took place. So then Coover claims that when he gave McAfee the evidence that the audits didn't take place in the 6 counties mentioned, McAfee stopped talking to him. He then claims he also went to someone else called Allison Sosby, then a DA in the Appalachian Circuit, and shared information with her. She stopped talking to him following the presentation of
not Pat
evidence.
McAfee.
They're dead to rights. They show up with this binder. They're like, "You're totally screwed." You're like, "Oh no, you're a conspiracy theorist." Please.
One of my favorite punters of all time.
To now is going to be appointed to a judge, and it's to immunize them, and so that you can't subpoena a judge or harass them. I'm a judge. I'm a state judge. Both McAfee and Soseby are now Superior Court judges appointed by Governor Kemp, and I'm pretty sure that's the same judge, McAfee, that was presiding over the case. Okay, literally presiding over the case. This guy, Scott McAfee, judge overseeing the Trump Atlanta indictment, re-wins his election. So Kemp appoints him? Is that the same dude? Wow. So now they get appointed, and they're taken out of the game. And let's make sure that we are, of course, subscribed over there to those guys. Badlands Media. Wow, what a shocking reveal. I think that's the same guy. So, man, shout out to them. And this report, Badlands Media, badlands.substack.com. Everybody who got evidence presented to them was taken off the field and made judges, so you can't investigate them anymore. It's a total scam. It is rigged top to bottom over there. What a disaster. So Cleta Mitchell, of course, has been working on this for a long time as well. Senior legal fellow conservative, and works with the Election Integrity Network. And she posted this in the fallout of this Georgia scandal. Says, let's talk about Fulton County.
Yeah, he's a hell of a character, that's for sure.
74,000 absentee ballots were reported as cast when the polls closed on November 3rd. 4 days later, somehow, 148,000 absentee ballots were counted, almost double, with no signature verification at all. And of the 148,000 new absentee ballots, guess how many were rejected? 6. Over 1 million extra absentee ballots were ordered by Fulton County October 16, 2020, after the deadline occurred to mail the ballots to the voters. Absentee ballots without envelopes. The law requires that absentee ballots be mailed. And any ballots without stubs, they're required by law for emergency or provisional ballots. Tens of thousands of ballots came to the State Farm Arena on and after Election Day. They were in unsecured mail carts. There was no chain of custody at all. For the 148,000 new ballots, and remember, the margin, Joe Biden won by 11,700 votes. That's it. 132,000 absentee ballot images have no SHA.
He does a lot of NFL commentating. He's huge on Fox for the NFL. And on college weekends, he's the one that's been running the charity field goal kick thing.
132,000 ballot images were deleted, the SHA files all gone. Of those deletions, 104,000 ballot images contain modified timestamps or other metadata anomalies. Somebody's in there manipulating the records. Now, those electronic file anomalies and deleted authentication files strongly suggest deliberate ballot image manipulation, not a clerical error, which is what they always blame when they get caught. So, more from Cleta, and of course,
that's nuts.
We remember
an arrow to the knee.
This is an old clip from 2024, clip courtesy of Canacoa the Great.
He does like national broadcasts, so he doesn't actually do the commentating. He's like, one of the ones, the desk guys, like the pregame stuff.
How problematic this whole election was. And hindsight now is 2020 as
where they make predictions and stuff like that.
The things that led me initially to have concern about everything was much earlier in 2020, and I can't remember exactly when I began. I started looking at our voter rolls, and I did some fairly simplistic research on the population of Fulton County, Georgia. What I found out, and of course started pressing that with the elections department, through subsequent monthly meetings, etc., was that the numbers that I was able to,
he is a character, though.
we had more voters on the active voter rolls than we did.
I think he has more tackles from any punter in the NFL.
And then extrapolate.
He'd go full bore to tackle the guy that he punted it to.
That became a major concern of mine, and frankly,
give up the body too,
and continued even after the 2020 election. So that was a big issue, and of course, inside that 2020 time frame, really there was nothing done to. Wasn't time, and I understand all of that, but there was nothing done to answer my questions on that.
No one investigated.
I thought, well, look, it's only fair to the voters of Fulton County that we're having clean voter rolls here, so that nobody.
All right, I'll be right back. Just got to deliver this phone charger.
Somebody may have come in and voted that, frankly, legally should not be able to. So I think that's very, very important. It would be Fulton County or anywhere in the country. But from that, in the 2020 election itself, I had the board members requested that we obtain the chain of custody documentation from the department.
Would be good. Pretty standard.
And none of that was ever delivered.
Of course not.
It was not delivered at the time of request leading up to the election, and was certainly not given. We weren't giving was given nothing. Even leading up to this.
Right there. Absolutely incredible. So as that was playing, I did a little AI search on that McAfee just to confirm. Was Scott McAfee, the judge who was presiding over the Fannie Willis RICO case, was he actually the same guy who was the inspector general who refused to actually investigate the fraud? Turns out, yeah. Scott McAfee, the new judge who just got appointed there so that he would be immunized and could continue to help cover this whole thing up. He was, in fact, the IG. He was the Georgia Inspector General from April 21 until he got shoved in there by Brian Kemp. He led the office investigating fraud. Didn't really investigate anything, it turns out, and was rewarded for that. He was appointed by Kemp to be the Inspector General. Then once he did his job and didn't actually uncover the election fraud, they made him the judge so he could carry on his operation. It is a scandal of epic proportion. So we're learning more every day, and I'm a little embarrassed I didn't know that. But here was this lady, and this is a wild thing that's happening down there. They're so nervous about this. And if you remember this woman, she was the same woman that another independent journalist was following around the day of the raid, and she was like, "You're a conspiracy theorist. Get out of here.
I gotta type something here.
Give us back our votes." All the things. Today, they held a registration and elections appreciation day just so that they could, feel better sitting around in a circle and sing Kumbaya. Here's what is happening in Fulton County.
Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections Appreciation Day, sponsored by Commissioners Barrett and Ivory.
I'd like to invite the Department of Registration and Elections down to join us. And as they're making their way down, I just want to say that we run exemplary elections in Fulton County that can be. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, they all feel good about themselves. Yeah, no, we run rigged elections. That's how we keep winning everything. So that's what they're doing over there. But meanwhile, we see that we need to have some serious election reform. Sidney Powell, who was put through the ringer with a lot of this election litigation, says we are fed up with this. And now we have 35 members of Congress that are asking for Mitch McConnell to stop delaying the SAVE Act. Short letter here. They say, listen, we write to ask that you schedule the SAVE Act immediately. We have the midterms coming up, swiftly approaching. We cannot delay any critical legislation that will undermine, or rather ensure, the integrity of our elections. On April 10th, we voted to advance the SAVE Act. This was sponsored by Mike Lee and Chip Roy. We want to prevent foreign nationals from voting in U.S. elections. By the way, Tulsi Gabbard was there. We've got Maduro in custody. We've got Maduro, Venezuela's top intelligence agent in custody. He's confirmed for us that there are real concerns about foreign influence in our elections. Now, as the chairman of the Senate Rules Committee and more, this committee was referred to you. You have the authority to add this legislation to the markup calendar. The time for markup is past due, and this is not good because McConnell is in the hospital now with the flu. So as the midterms approach, the Senate must take urgent action to address this threat to our citizens' national self-determination. The problem is not hypothetical, okay? In states across the country, from Texas to Ohio, thousands of aliens have been identified as being registered to vote in federal elections. Now, while
Yeah, a little glitch in the financing, but I think we're going to get it resolved.
From voter rolls under the NDRA and continue to investigate, other states make it impossible to do this. And so the SAVE Act is necessary so that we can fix these problems. It's overwhelmingly popular. We saw CNN was even saying, even across racial groups, everybody wants voter ID. According to a Gallup poll, an overwhelming 83% of American voters support requiring people to prove their citizenship, provide an ID. The same poll even says Democrats want this. And as you will recall, Mitch, 62% of voters in Kentucky also favor this. So we have to make sure that we have fair elections. Constitution requires that every person here is guaranteed a Republican form of government, not rigged votes. So Mitch, hopefully he gets out of the hospital soon and reads this letter. Bunch of people are on it. Gill, Crane, Clyde, Pfluger, Jackson, Cloud, Alford, Fine, and many more. Corey Mills, Dusty Johnson, Mark Harris, many others.
We're hoping, man. It's
and of course,
a lot longer process than we anticipated, but that's okay.
But here's Cleta Mitchell. She was on with Bannon today and said, here's what's going on with Fulton County. We just read a post from her articulating the numbers and explaining just how problematic the math actually is.
I want people to picture in your mind November 4th, the morning of November 4th, the day after the election, the national presidential election. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger from Georgia went on the Today Show and he said the following, that a record 4.7 million ballots had been cast in Georgia. This is the morning of November 4th. President Trump was in the lead by 103,000 votes. And there were only 94,000 ballots left to count. Now remember, the deadline for receipt of absentee ballots in Georgia in 2020 was when the polls closed 7 p.m. on November the 3rd.
It's over.
So that's a known number the next day, right? Except that when they finished counting the ballots 4 days later, suddenly there were 300,000 more ballots than there were when the polls closed on election day. Absentee ballots that came in, and half of those, 148,000 of those, were from Fulton County. Now, let me tell you some things about Fulton County. And all of this is from a 263-page.
I try to as much as possible as well.
Report with every document, visual images. You cannot believe the things that are in this report. And I'll tell you where to find the full report. But I wanted to go through those 260-some-odd pages and pull out the bullet points that everybody needs to just understand. So let's talk about Fulton County absentee ballots. There were 74,000 absentee ballots that had come into Fulton County by the time the polls closed, the legal deadline by the time the polls
I get it, brother.
on November the 3rd. But somehow, 4 days later,
just kept counting.
Instead of those 74,000, there were 148,000.
Total scam.
Plus, just a little over 148,000 absentee ballots that were now suddenly in the mix. Now, where did those come from?
Fanny's booty.
Fulton County election
Fanny's booty.
Ordered on October the 16th.
Fanny's fanny.
Over 1 million new absentee ballots.
For whom?
They were ordered without envelopes, even though in order to cast an absentee ballot in Georgia, you have to mail it. You have to put it in an envelope. It has to be sealed in an envelope. And we saw in one of our counts in our lawsuit, our election contest, that was never heard by a judge because no judge was appointed. But our volunteers saw all of these pristine ballots, no folds. Those cannot be absentee ballots. But tens of thousands of these ballots were delivered to the State Farm Arena with no chain of custody. Here's the ultimate data point. According to Fulton County and the Secretary of State records, this is post-election, there were 148,319 absentee ballots in Fulton County counted, included in the totals for Georgia. But only 125,784 voters were recorded as having cast an absentee ballot. That is a difference of 25,535 more ballots than voters who are recorded as having registered for and cast an absentee ballot in Fulton County.
Totally
so
fake.
that's 25,535 more ballots than voters. And the margin between President Trump and Joe Biden was 11,779. Now, these absentee ballots that came in, there were over 133,000 ballot images deleted. Only 16,000 of the 148,000 absentee ballots, only 16,000 have the actual ballot images that were retained as required by law.
No wonder they're
And people
freaks.
have looked at those ballot images and they see anomalies, markings, changed timestamps. They believe that those were deliberately
Yeah, it sounds like it, brother.
deleted. Now that's just in the absentee ballots.
Massive fraud, massive
We
crime.
get to the tabulators, where the tabulator tapes, that every tabulator has a tape. It is supposed to have a memory card that is put into the tabulator at the beginning. They're supposed to print out a poll tape.
Yep.
That says 0. There are no ballots on this.
These are all
machine.
things that I do when I work the polls.
And then there's a memory card that's
And then
supposed to
one
be
person from each party has to sign off on it.
and that is not supposed to be taken off until the polls close from advance voting prior to Election Day, the Friday before Election Day. But what we see in Fulton County, and there's also supposed to be a closing tape. So there's supposed to be
with the final count.
Every tabulator,
Each,
a tape that has the
It's exactly what we have to do. Probably the same machines.
It's supposed to say how many ballots were tabulated by that particular machine. It is supposed to have the serial number of the machine that actually tabulated the ballots. What did they do in Fulton County? There are only 9 tabulators that have opening tapes. There are zero poll tapes that have both the opening tape and the 0 count, the official record of how many ballots were tabulated, and the serial number. There are 0 of the 148 tabulators in Fulton County in 2020. There are zero tabulator tapes with all the required statutory information. There are no qualified numbered voter lists for Fulton County for in-person voting. Every voter who comes in is supposed to be sign in. That becomes the numbered voter list. They know exactly how many have shown up to vote. And
I've worked every election since 2020 when I knew it was bullshit.
I mean, the numbered voter list exists.
Our county actually won an award this last year for how pristine our numbers were.
In this comprehensive report,
and how accurate we are with our stuff.
And it is mind-blowing. And it's all there, but I thought it was important to bring the highlights out of this. And I'm going to be posting on Twitter and on X and on Truth Social so that people can see these bullets. And of course, what has happened over the last 5 years? The powers that be, Brad Raffensperger, Chris Carr, the Attorney General, Brad Raffensperger, and Brian Kemp Brian Kemp
did one thing at the beginning. One of the people who went and looked at all of this took it to him and showed that from the original count to the hand recount that happens to confirm that the original numbers are correct, there were 6,691 fictitious ballots inserted into the certified total. That's still included in the total. So Joe Rossi from Georgia got the governor to send his people in. They confirmed that Joe Rossi was telling them correctly. Governor Kemp sends a letter.
And the thing is, we got to take the same class before each election.
We need to investigate this.
It's a freaking 4-hour class.
They did not.
Making sure you still even if you've done it before many times, making sure you know any rule changes that may have happened, making sure you still know how to work all the machines.
Ballots for votes that have no ballots. There are no ballots to support that 7,000, which again is almost the entire.
Oh yeah, he's a bad writer. Okay, I'm passing this guy.
All right, so amazing report from Cleta Mitchell. Make sure you're giving them a follow. Senior legal fellow at the Conservative Partnership Institute. She's over on X, bringing a bunch of good news and reporting to us on this account at Cleta Mitchell. So we're going to repost this at the top of our timeline so that you can give her a follow and stay plugged in. But Cash was also out. He was asked questions about this last night over on Fox. And here is what the director of the FBI had to say about what they're working on over there in the Bureau.
From the FBI perspective and our partners at DOJ, we did the same thing there we do in any criminal case or investigation. We collected evidence. We presented that evidence to a federal magistrate judge who made a finding of probable cause and said, here's your search warrant. Here are the parameters of that search warrant. And what you saw play out last week was the execution of that search warrant, just like we would do anywhere else. The target of that search warrant was a warehouse down in Fulton County. Federal search warrant and for the evidence. And from there, we maintain the chain of custody and do what we always do, which is follow the evidence.
But the problem
from the
amazing. So Cash is explaining that they went to a different state, not Georgia, got a warrant over from Missouri, I believe, and then executed the seizure of these fraudulent documents. But you know how nervous they are. You can see it in this dude's face. He said arrests are coming. And here's more from the press conference. We'll play it out and see how this ends.
I received another call. Actually, it was Monday. It's Monday. Same source saying that you guys can't relax.
No naps.
Even though the FBI has been there, they've confiscated the 700 boxes. Arrests are coming. So
yes.
We'll have to wait and see.
State election.
Yeah, I know.
Worried down with the Trump administration's coordinating with state elections for using this evidence to actually start.
That's certainly a possibility, and certainly something that I'm concerned about. And I think if they're able to do it here, that's why I say we're the epicenter. It will be the test case. If they're successful in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia in particular, the others on that list of 15 plus states, they should be aware.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You should be aware, Jenna Griswold and AG Chris Mays and Katie Hobbs in Arizona, and Dana Nessel in Michigan, and the fraudsters in Wisconsin, and everywhere else, okay? This is just the tip of the iceberg. We saw what they did to Carrie Lake. We saw that Jenna Griswold changed all of the ballots for all of the machines, updated the BIOS firmware on voting systems days before the election so that none of the testing and validation of those machines could be completed in time. Testing and accuracy, I think it's TNA, and which also has a different meaning. But they changed the systems right before the elections occurred, and then of course Joe Biden wins in all these states. Democrats win in all these states.
Mr. Chairman, the fact that the president called, talked to some of the investigators while they were there, it seemed highly unusual.
Not really.
How do you react to hearing the news of the actual president of the United States called all that evidence?
Well, even before that, when Tulsi Gabbard showed up, that was a signal to me that this is bigger than just the confiscation of our records.
Oh, it is bigger.
And then we learned if he, in fact, has spoken with her and others, that's simply true. certification of our records.
Don't reelect us.
Over and over again, people calling this raid a voter intimidation tactic, and that it's more about 2026 than 2020. What's your message to voters?
This is, I think, probably the first step in whatever they're going to do in order to depress voter participation, voter
Yeah, I see that.
making whatever changes they think are necessary
fix
to help
if we
their
need to
case in
here.
2026, but more importantly, in 2028. Well, warrant and arrest. I'm not aware of anyone within our elections department.
That's what every criminal says right before they're arrested. Okay, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm clearly okay. Don Lamont's a pretty good example of that. For one,
Haven't done anything that would warrant arrest. We're simply doing our job. And again,
that's the problem. You didn't do your job. You guys were covering up an election. You all got promotions, and you all kept and maintained your power, and installed an illegitimate candidate and illegitimate governors, and then judges got promoted, and the whole thing is rigged.
Yeah, I went to our elections hub the day that I got a telephone call at the FBI. So it was first and foremost to make sure that our employees were safe, and number two,
Safe.
to make sure that we complied with everything that the FBI was seeking. Because I have no issue with the FBI. They're doing their job.
That's right.
Men and women were doing their job.
That's right.
Because attorney needs to step out for a minute. Thank you all so much for coming.
All right, so that's Rob Pitts. He sounds very nervous, looks a little bit shaken up. They have now sued. They really want those files back, so that case is proceeding through the federal courts right now. He mentioned it is still under seal. So we're going to keep.
What do they need the files back for?
Subscribing and joining as
so they can tamper with them?
Investigations continue. Now, we're not done yet. We got a bunch more fraud to talk about here. And this one is also a fun one because we got fraud in Minnesota elsewhere. So here's this one in Minnesota. Democrats now freaking out because they have a backfire that is right on their doorstep. They were excited that Greg Bovino was thrown out of Minnesota. Tom Homan is coming in. And now Tom is creating some results. And he was out today in a press briefing and he said a bunch of things. We're going to listen to him talking about now how they're getting unprecedented cooperation from Minnesota law enforcement officials. But Jacob Frey not happy with this. He says 2,000 federal agents isn't a de-escalation. My ask remains the same. He says Operation Metro Search needs to end. But J.D. Vance says there will be no surrender, not at all. He says the drawdown and body-worn cameras are a step in the right direction. Homan is saying they're pulling some people out. But 2,000 ICE officers still here is not de-escalation at all. My message to the White House has been consistent. Operation Metro Search has been catastrophic for our residents, a.k.a. illegal aliens and businesses, and it needs to end immediately. But J.D. Vance says, no, we're not going anywhere there, bucko. He says, no surrender. Odd mass deportations, they call it a bloodbath. That's rich. Are you serious? Daily Mail, give us a break. They say, Vance has insisted the White House is not backing down at all. Gave a wide-ranging interview. Of course, we've got the deaths of Renee Good and the insurgent Alex Preddy. Tom Homan has come in, and the question is the White House in retreat?
Power plant.
Here's what JD said.
After the shooting, Tom Homan was sent in to sort of take over the immigration.
It's just so cold that it's even the water. It's a very clean plant, but the water vapor just makes all that white smoke.
Yeah. So the administration is sort of backing away.
Just basically condensation.
I don't believe that Tom said that. I believe that he said
because they use I think that's a gas plant, LP gas plant.
officials, which has always been the policy of Trump.
But does that indicate the administration's moving back on mass deportations?
No, it doesn't at all. I mean, look, we're not surrendering. We're not moving back on anything. We're just trying to actually encourage cooperation so that we get a little bit less chaos. If you remember, I went to Minneapolis.
It's not, like I said, it's not really smoke. It's just more condensation than anything. On a warm day, you barely see anything coming out of there.
Cooperation from state and local
because
officials. We could.
It's there. You know how most power plants work, especially that type. Is they're boiling water
It's actually not
to produce the power.
So you've got a few people who will go out and say arrest a guy, a sex predator, or somebody else who's violating the immigration laws or even additional laws. On top of that, they're going to try to arrest that guy so that they can deport him. But because the local and state police
this is water vapor
supporting them, if let's say a mob forms around them, they need somebody to protect those.
It's liquid propane. There's hardly any real exhaust, CO2 exhaust coming out of it.
We got cooperation from Minneapolis police, from the state police. We would be happy, as Tom Homan and I've said, to draw down our law enforcement presence there. But we need cooperation in order to make this happen.
That's one of the cleanest plants in the area, actually, other than the nuclear power plant, which is up by the lake.
We're not going to give up on immigration.
Yeah, Minneapolis.
Davis Bessie, they call it.
Doing immigration enforcement. We actually have cooperation from the state and local. Again, you're very smart. You're trying to get me to engage in a lot of hypotheticals.
Those aren't hypotheticals, sir. The president said he was willing to send in troops to Minneapolis to use the insurrection. Is that still on the table?
Look, and that's an if. If this thing happened, then another thing might happen. If a different thing happens, then another thing might happen. Let's actually focus on reality of what's happening on the ground. What we're doing is trying to draw the chaos down. And we can do that so long as we've got some cooperation from state and local officials. There's a little bit of evidence they are starting to cooperate with us. For example, let's say you have an illegal immigrant, a sex offender who's in a county jail. We'd like to deport that person as soon as they get out of the county jail. 2 weeks ago, the state authorities, the local authorities were saying, we're not even going to let you know when this person gets out of prison. Now, they're saying they will let us know when that person gets out of prison so that we can deport them and get them out of our country. That's the kind of cooperation that we need to see more of. And yeah, if we see more of it, I think the chaos will come down. We'll continue to enforce our immigration laws. There will be less violence on America's streets, which is ultimately the goal here, to keep people safe. And I find it interesting that the people who are constantly attacking our immigration policy completely ignore that murders went down 20% in the United States of America in 2025. Do we think possibly there's a connection between the fact that we got a lot of violent criminals out of the United States of America with the fact that there are many fewer Americans getting killed? There's absolutely a connection, which is why we're not giving up on immigration enforcement.
Nice. So no surrender from JD.
You view Vice President
And there
JD
was another clip here, which was a fun one, where this journo says, are you going to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
Apologize for what, he says.
Federal agents' vehicles, hawking loogies on them, trying to instigate them and obstruct their efforts. Here's the response from JD, which was a good one.
Apologize to the family of Alex Preddy.
For what?
For, labeling him.
Do you plan to apologize to Preddy's family?
Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just described to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if it is
determined,
if it's determined that his rights were violated by this FBI investigation, will you apologize?
So, if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leeds to another hypothetical,
it's a real case.
Will I do a thing? And again, like I said, we're going to let the investigators plan to
For what? We're sorry that he showed up and was insurrecting and acting as an insurgent in the middle of federal operations, that now he's dead, I guess. Maybe he shouldn't have shown up there. But do you want us to now stop immigration enforcement? Is that your argument? So Tom Homan was out today, and he is explaining we have unprecedented cooperation. So all of this attempt now to kick ICE out, seemingly, is backfiring. Here was Homan from the press conference today.
And law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community.
I don't know if I agree with that.
While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant
They'll just dig them
progress
out.
under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks.
Nice.
We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets.
Great.
Unprecedented.
Most of the ones that are getting deported are self-deporting those, so they're
And I'll say it again.
doing it the right way.
This is efficient. It requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat. This frees up more officers to arrest random criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien. This coordination also makes it far more safe for the Twin Cities.
Tom Homan in the House and explaining that it is now unprecedented. They're cooperating in various counties, which is what they should have been doing from the very beginning. But the Democrats are not happy about any of this. In fact, this was a wild clip here from Jerry Nadler, the Waddler, who has been in Congress forever, saying, if you don't like ICE, why don't you just shoot them?
What is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. But what is really
Shoot the federal agent? JD says Jerry Nadler is one of the highest-ranking Democrats in the House of Reps, and he is openly calling for people to shoot feds. This is despicable behavior from an elected official. Chris Mays in Arizona was doing the same thing, and I honestly think that they want that to happen. That's why they're saying it. I'm sure the left-wing media will cover it extensively. No, they won't. They'll just say Trump is kidnapping people off the street. Now that the Democrats are encouraging more federal agents. Now, we're also learning that Renee Good was, in fact, in one of these signal groups. Big surprise, I know. Andy No says confirmation that she was indeed a member of the extremist signal secret chat network that is organizing the insurgency in Minneapolis. Another account with matching details to the deceased armed radical Alex Preddy was also discovered last week. Here's Christina Button says, I have identified an account using the same name and photo of Renee Good in the Defend 612 Signal neighborhood chat, right where she lived. After her death and the media attention that followed, organizers began encouraging everybody else in these chats to use nicknames and go anonymous for greater anonymity. There she is, another insurgent in the group who was obstructing federal agents and then, in her case, attempting to run him over with her car after she got a lawful order to get out of the vehicle. It goes on and on and on, and now they're saying that their side should shoot the federal agents, according to Jerry Nadler, because they're lunatics. So while all this is happening, we have appeals going up to various courts, and the Fifth Circuit has now just come down and split earlier this week. Said a 3-judge panel of the Fifth Circuit appeared to be divided yesterday. Oral arguments occurred, don't have a ruling yet, but there are policy changes. Cases have been so numerous that people are freaking out about the case work. So there's a prosecutor who's in the DOJ who has just been relieved of her duty after she had a meltdown.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Justice Department lawyer told a judge in an immigration case, this job sucks. Here's the background. DOJ removed the government lawyer. She was assigned in Minnesota. She went into court, told a federal judge, this job sucks. Her name is Julie Lee. She's a lawyer for Homeland. And she's overwhelmed, saying the District of Minnesota got hundreds of lawsuits. And by the way, these lawsuits are being brought by the ACLU gangbang lawyers or by groups like Acacia Justice, right? They get billions of dollars or at least hundreds of millions from the federal government and then pay for illegal aliens to sue to exploit our own justice system for their benefit. They've already broken the laws. They've already rejected our national sovereignty. Now they want to come in and then claim our same constitutional privileges that are reserved for citizens to protect them from being deported. So they're suing ACLU lawyers, tons of money getting dumped into this. But a judge out there named Jerry, he ordered her and another lawyer to appear before them. Then she told the judge that the judge is like, asking her a bunch of questions. She's like, well, I stupidly volunteered for this job. She says to the judge, what do you want me to do? You want these records? She says, the system sucks. This job sucks. DOJ spokesperson said the Trump admin was complying with the judge's orders, but we got high caseloads. We've got rogue judges, but they cut her assignment short. Don't know if she went to a different position or whatever. She said, I work days and nights and trying to ensure that we're complying with your orders. It is stressful, a little stressful, which they have not done in the past or currently. She said to the judge, she told the judge this, sometime I wish you would just hold me in contempt, Your Honor, so that I can have a full 24 hours of sleep. Like lock me up, throw me in jail. 6 prosecutors have also resigned, and the illegals and their ACLU lawyers are, causing DOJ prosecutors to lose their minds. Lee said, I also have concerns. Oh, it's a dude? This is a guy? Oh my gosh, that makes it way worse. This is a male person who's having this meltdown. He said that he wants to be held in contempt. He was appointed,
I think most of us are,
by Joe Biden. He shared his concerns about how immigration cases were being handled. Oh, it's a she, sorry. I'm not white, as you can see, she said. And my family's at risk as any other people that might get picked up too, so I share the same concern, and I took that concern to heart. All right, so she's not white. She's having a meltdown. She doesn't like immigration enforcement. She should go get a job with Mark Elias. Having a meltdown over there. Now, meanwhile, while all this is happening, what I'm explaining is that our government is facilitating and funding the illegal alien defense operation completely. And Kami Mamdani from New York is now offering free legal services to the Haitians. Okay, so now they, as we talked about yesterday, are fighting for a TPS status, and a judge called Annis Reyes, a lesbian judge, historic. That's why I bring that up, because it's historic. She, who was born in Uruguay, also a foreign-born judge, said that you can't cancel TPS status. Temporary doesn't mean temporary at all. It means that you have to allow the Haitians to stay here permanently, and if you try to remove them, you're a racist bigot. That's like literally her opinion. So now Kami Mamdani is now also doing the same thing, right? Saying, we'll literally pay for your status to be preserved in our state because they're insane over there.
Haitian New Yorkers across the 5 points. If you have temporary protected status, you've been forced to live in limbo for the last year. Unsure whether this country would allow you to stay and build your lives with dignity.
It's not really unclear. It's time to go home. Temporary means temporary. The big earthquake that started this whole thing was 15 years ago.
Temporary protected status for Haitians was set to end today, February 3rd.
Nice.
Last night, a federal judge temporarily blocked that termination while the case was
the foreign-born lesbian.
But let's be clear, the federal government will appeal. This temporary protection is not permanent.
That's right.
You deserve stability and safety, and New York City stands with you. Right now, we urge you to speak with an immigration lawyer and explore every possible legal path.
They're going to pay for it.
Whether asylum, adjustment of status, or any other path to permanent residency. New York City offers free, trusted immigration legal support with services in over 200 languages. You can call directly by calling this number. City Hall stands with you.
The American populace is paying for lawyers for illegal aliens who have been adjudicated, according to Homeland, removable. TPS status now canceled. Go home. It's temporary. You've had plenty of time to save up some money and go build your home country. So you can see, the DOJ is, normally you would say the DOJ is a massive institution and they can handle all of this, but every single state, all these various states are self-funding these things, creating an onslaught against the DOJ lawyers. Now, the police in Minnesota and Minneapolis have basically had enough. Liz Collins shared this one. Here's a statement from the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis. They say we don't support private individuals or groups establishing unauthorized checkpoints. Now they're creating blockades there in Minneapolis, or patrol zones. No one has the legal authority to stop or detain anyone. These actions obstruct traffic, they interfere with emergency access, they create safety risks, and police officers have a duty to address these things. Now, regardless of the cause that's being advanced. Officers enforcing basic traffic and safety laws are not taking sides in political disputes. We're trying to prevent chaos. Rank-and-file officers are placed in an impossible position. They're expected to preserve public safety, keep streets passable, prevent confrontations from escalating. But when officers move in and request the illegal blockades be removed, they are not met with cooperation. The Minnesotans are coming at them with open hostility. Yeah, how does it feel? Verbal abuse, non-compliance, individuals intent on escalating confrontation rather than restoring public safety. It's not just about ICE. These are insurgents. They don't like any authority. We have seen officers unfairly targeted online, in public discourse, not ICE officers, local cops, for trying to restore access to the streets, preventing dangerous confrontations, and doing the job the public expects of them. Vilifying our officers makes an already volatile situation even more difficult and undermines public safety. Our officers should not be scapegoated for keeping Minneapolis safe. Of course, peaceful protest is a constitutional right, but impersonating law enforcement, conducting stop and frisk, and physically blocking public roadways is not. The city of Minneapolis should take an assertive and aggressive stance on stopping these illegal blockades and enforce the laws before someone gets seriously hurt. And here's just one of the blockades. Look at this. F-ICE, no honking. They're taking over the streets. So if this continues and the local cops are unable to do
maybe
anything,
raiding Robert.
Unable to do anything,
He's still on.
City? Is this what Mayor Jacob Frey and Tim Walz ultimately want? Maybe it is. Now here's more. They are now saying that they have officials in these ICE chats. This woman admitted it. Marcia Howard, head of Minneapolis Teachers Union, admits that elected officials are in these anti-ICE groups. And we already covered this a long time ago when the whole thing broke out. We saw, allegedly, Lieutenant Governor Patty Flanagan, the second in command under Tim Walz, who was allegedly in one of these groups. And now we're getting more confirmation from a teachers union head.
I would tell you offline.
The head of the Minneapolis Teachers Union proudly admits that elected officials are in signal chats. They're being used to share information about where these federal agents are. Listen.
The notion that people that are actively engaged in ICE Watch, in being vigilant in protecting our neighbors, in signal chat groups, running plates in their cars, doing patrols, that somehow we're ashamed of that activity, that somehow you could call our bosses or show our faces and then we would be shunned by our community. Our bosses are in the signal chats with us. Our elected officials are in the chats with us.
Wow.
And I have reached out to the mayor and governor's office to get their reaction to that data.
Yeah, are you guys in there? Because we thought we saw your names in there. Now we have somebody who's in there saying that, yep, you're definitely in there. Feels like a coordinated insurgency. And remember, 19 people got indicted for working with the President Trump when they said that he was trying to steal an election. RICO case. Big Fanny brought it. Where are the red AGs bringing these claims against the fraud that's happening in their states? Of course, Minnesota has Keith Ellison, so that's going to be a non-starter. But they're actively involved in all of it. And the fraud is way worse than you even could possibly imagine. In fact, Dr. Oz is saying it's 13,000% worse than you ever thought. Here is exactly how he explained it on with Newsmax.
Minnesota for a second. Minnesota expected to spend $3 million for autism. It's now $400 million. Why? Because everybody in the community signed their kids up as though they're autistic. Why? We're paying them. These moms literally took bribes to lie that their kids had autism. Rob, if one child in the neighborhood has autism, they get care, they get support, we can give them money. If every kid in the neighborhood has autism, nobody has autism because you can't get to a provider. And we have,
we've seen some of the folks out there and how they operate. But that's a lot. I'm not sure that every single Somalian is autistic, but they say that they are. So the
they're
president
just retarded.
Was also out today. We got
clinically.
And
their IQs are below the retard rate.
Tom Holman says
He'll call me and then he
backing down on this. He made a promise. Immigration enforcement will continue every single day until it's completed. Here's Tom.
Safety risk, you are not exempt from immigration enforcement action. If you're in the country legally, you are not off the table. And let me be clear, President Trump fully intends to achieve mass deportations during this administration, and immigration enforcement actions will continue every day throughout this country. President Trump made a promise, and we have not directed otherwise. I heard rumors we have. Untrue. Given that many public safety threats in our communities, many of which poured across the border during the Biden administration, it makes sense to prioritize public safety risks right now. Again, prioritization doesn't mean forget about everybody else. If we have a criminal here and I'm a criminal here, the criminal has to be arrested first because they're the biggest threat to the community.
Exactly right. And enforcement will continue. Eric Schmidt was out. He's a senator from Missouri. We had a Judiciary Committee hearing today, and apparently there was some NGO co-president of a Soros-funded group who was there, Eric Schmidt, digging into testimony with him.
Are deportations racist?
Are deportations racist? It depends. It can be racist. Sure.
Is ICE racist?
I think the practices of ICE right now are abhorrent and should be abhorrent, exactly as you said, for American values. I think the practices of ICE right now are...
But ICE itself, the organization, is racist.
The enforcing immigration and customs laws per se is not racist. What ICE actually is doing, I believe, can fairly be characterized as racist.
All right. I asked this because we did a little bit of digging into Public Citizen and found two things. One is, you're funded by George Soros, correct?
The Open Society Foundation is one of our funders, yes.
And you call just about everything you don't like racist.
That is not true.
Okay, well, let me give you a few examples. Sure. On December 11th, 2019, Public Citizen tweeted that the banking sector as a whole is racist. On August 17th, 2021, Public Citizen said in a press release that algorithmic racism was a major problem and that we need to start creating anti-racist algorithms. On December 23rd, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted that our healthcare system is a racist abomination. On April 7th, 2023, Public Citizen tweeted that expelling two Tennessee state reps for violating the legislature's rule was racism. On April 15th, 2021, Public Citizen tweeted that law enforcement in this country has been overrun by racism. On June 25th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted, racism is the reason DC is not a state. On January 15th, 2019, Public Citizen tweeted that asking about citizenship status on the census was racist. On August 24th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted, defund our racist, hyper-militarized, murderous American police force. On July 10th, 2020, Public Citizen tweeted that law and order is a racist dog whistle. Do you stand by these statements?
I appreciate the depths in which you've gone and researched. In the context of all those statements, yes, sir.
So all of those things are racist.
If you want to go through them, we can.
So here's, I'm really glad. Hold on. I'm glad for this moment of clarity because a lot of witnesses would try to sidestep that.
That's correct.
But what you have shown in the questioning we've seen before, and just these examples, the public interest isn't your interest at all. It is not your interest at all. You use racism as an attempt to intimidate people to get your way, and it's not 2020 anymore. The American people are over it. So what you're going to find is we're going to prosecute. It has nothing to do with race. We're going to prosecute because fraud was committed on a level that is so offensive to this country. Your words that don't mean anything aren't going to stop what's coming. And I want you to take that back to George Soros and all these ridiculous funders you have to try to muddle the issue. Because justice is coming. And by the way, if I have it my way, we will denaturalize all these fraudsters and send them home.
Yes! Oh, shout out to Eric Schmidt, man. That's exactly right. That racist crap, it doesn't work. Oh, you're a bigot, you're a xenophobe, whatever. It's like water off the duck's back. doesn't even matter. It used to matter when it actually meant something, like when actually racist people were called out for being racist. But now it's for everything. Everything that you do, you're going to get attacked for it, and it just doesn't matter anymore. They've actually kind of wrecked their own words in that regard by calling everybody a racist or homophobic or transphobic or whatever one of their stupid words are. No one cares. Kristi Noem was also out. She says, look, at this beautiful border wall, explaining, in Trump's first year back in office, we delivered the most secure border in American history, and we did so in the immediate aftermath of Joe Biden's coordinated invasion. Thank you to the men and women of CBP, ICE, law enforcement, and the military for your sacrifice to secure our southern border, restore national pride, confidence, and protect your fellow citizens. And now it's time to deport everybody to the other side of the wall.
Hi, everybody. We're here in Nogales, and we just left a ceremony where we recognized some outstanding Border Patrol agents, but also talked about the fact that we've had 1 year of a secure border under President Trump. Having a secure border means that our laws are enforced, that we have cut fentanyl deaths in our country by over 30%, that we have the lowest murder rate in our nation's history, and that America is safe again. Continuing to thank President Trump for his strength and leadership and making sure.
Yeah, sun drops pretty quick. Still a little hazy there on the
continue to do that for generations.
west.
Hi, everybody.
Big,
we're here in Nogales.
Beautiful wall from Kristi Noem and Eric Schmidt and others. The enforcement will continue. J.D. Vance says no surrender. Democrats very unhappy about this. Nadler saying just shoot him. You know, just shoot him if you don't like him. But the enforcement will continue, and the fraud will be rooted out. We're going to be here to continue until every single bit of it is done. What a beautiful day it has been, my friends. Thank you for joining us on today's show. If you're just getting here, we had a banger of a first segment. Golly. This guy, Rob Pitts, the chairman out there in Fulton County, said arrests are coming. He got 2 phone calls from over in Washington. Don't know who that person is who is leaking. Hopefully they find out who that is. But they said a raid is coming. The raid occurred. Now they're saying arrests are coming. We're looking forward to those. So lots of reaction to that. And man, we had some interesting reveals today. Something I did not know was that Scott McAfee, according to Badlands Media and AI research, says that Scott McAfee, the guy who presided over the RICO case with Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, was the same inspector general who was basically brought evidence about fraud. Didn't do anything with it. Pretty wild what's happening there in Florida and Georgia. So we see there was a great report here from badlands.substack.com. Make sure you're giving them a follow and appreciating this amazing reporting. We also had, of course, a report from Cleta Mitchell, which was another burner, explaining.
I'm going to go ahead and raid him now while he's going through his super chats and stuff. That way I can dump you over to Robert Gouveia, then you can follow him. Make sure you let the crowd know I sent you guys.
Friend over here, Rob, he said the same thing.
Find him first. Oh shit.
Just great as can be. Arizona, Colorado, and more. So Sidney Powell reacted to this. We talked about the SAVE Act. We had Kash Patel in the house before we swapped over to Minnesota and reminded ourselves about how bad these people are.
He's only going to be on for a few more minutes.
They're making good progress. They thought the unprecedented cooperation. J.D. Vance saying no surrender and ain't good was in fact in one of the secret signal groups filled with the insurgents. J.D. Vance says, why should we apologize that Alex Preddy got himself killed? Not our problem. And here, the DOJ removing a lawyer who just had a meltdown in court saying they're being overwhelmed by all of the lawsuits. The police have had enough. We also saw this clip here where they're admitting that elected officials are also in these signal chats as part of this insurgency. 13,000% increase in autism requests out there in Somalia. We heard Banana and Rice, though. She's the she needs the services. With no disrespect to anybody with autism or autistic kids or who's afflicted with something like that. And we saw more from Andy No. We saw Tom Homan. We had Eric Schmidt with a burner, and Kristi Noem is down at the border.
Hey, you too, brother. I'm going to be watching on his chat for a bit. But I'm going to go ahead and kill this now. I may fire it back up if I do some dashing afterwards, after I eat.
So that when we come back tomorrow, we see it back here. never miss you again. We also have a great members only community as well. Members only streams in the morning. This morning, we talked about a bunch of good stuff. Can't even remember what it was, but it was so good. Love to have you as a member. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another members only stream. We'll see you back over there. You can sign up on YouTube, on Locals, and be sure to check out our Substack too, where we post show notes and links and show notes and all the documents over there.
Jumped over.
But now, my friends, let us hear from you. See what you say about all of this. I saw